Okay, so I've harvested my deer and now I'm going to start the process of canning the meat. So yesterday we cut all the meat off the bone and I brought it in the house and washed it really well and put it in a cold saltwater soak overnight in my refrigerator. And now I'm getting ready to, I've got my canning jars in the pressure cooker right here, and they are going to sterilize first. I'm going to sterilize them in the pressure canner, and that is just boiling water, and I'm going to put a little bit of vinegar in it. And I put the vinegar in simply for, I don't measure it, I just pour some in there. It helps the glass in the jars not be foggy, and it just kind of makes it look clearer. So first we're going to boil the jars, lids, and rings to sterilize them. Let those dry while I finish cleaning off some of the meat. So I'm just waiting for this to come to a slow boil, and then I'm going to get all the jars out and sit them out and let them cool and dry. Alright, so my jars and lids are steam sterilized now, and I'm going to let those cool. So here are the things that I'll be adding to my deer meat for the canning process. Last year I used the beef bouillon and the canning salts. This year I'm going to try something new and add sliced mushrooms and onion gravy while I'm canning it so that it is a ready-made meal when I open the cans. Alright, so at this point, I have cut my meat. It's been rinsed again. And now we're going to cold pack it into the jar that's been washed and sterilized. So I'm going to get brave and try something new with this one that I haven't done before. And that is, I'm going to put mushrooms, onion gravy mix, a cup of water, and the meat in this quart jar. And so basically that way I'll have like beef and mushrooms with gravy already in it. And when I get ready to come home and cook dinner that night or after a ball game when we're running late, I can just pop up in this jar, cook some noodles, warm it up, and pour it over. It's going to be great. So I have a McCormick gravy. And this says this is a gravy mix. So I'm going to mix this with 1 cup of water. Seriously, this may not turn out, but it's worth a try. Alright, so the onion mix is in. And I'm going to look and see what the water looks like. I'm using a 1/3 cup, so. Alright, so I think that should be plenty of water. And then these are actually pre-cooked mushrooms. I probably could have done like fresh ones. So I'm just going to put, I don't know, half a jar. Whoop. Good thing my counters are clean. And then I'm just going to mix that up really, really good. Let me move my shrooms. And then we'll cold pack our meat. You'll need your packing tool for this if you want to do it by the canning books. So you're just going to put your meat in here. Kind of use this, it just kind of pushes it around. Nice. I'm actually going to take just a little bit of that out because you don't want to fill your jar too full. That should be good right there. I actually think we could do, probably on the next one, I will do less water. And I'll probably put the meat in first. So let's drop that meat in there. It's a learning curve. I'm not a canning expert. This is only my second year canning venison. So it looks like I've got to go back to the cutting board and cut some more up for this, which was expected. So we'll just set that over to the side. We'll set this one over to the side and go back to the cutting board. So in this jar, this is how I did last year. Instead of doing the mushrooms and gravy mix, I actually just did a teaspoon of canning salt and 1 beef bouillon cube. So we'll go ahead, and then I add just a little bit of water to that. So here are my beef bouillon cubes, and I'll just open up, I think I'll do 2. All right, so this one has the deer meat, the 2 bouillon cubes. I'm gonna add 1 teaspoon of canning salts. And then I'm just gonna add just a little bit of water. So that's my 2 recipes that I'm using. I'm just gonna use this to kind of push the salt down into the bottom and the bouillon cubes, and that way they cook into the meat as it's pressure canning. So I've got 2 quarts ready, only 5 more to go. As I'm getting the jars ready, I'm just gonna take the lid, place it on here, and then the ring is gonna go on just hand tight, like just till it snugs. You don't want to tighten that down too much because it'll cause too much pressure and then it won't seal. So just hand tighten it. So what feels like 4 hours later, I'm ready to go ahead and turn the pressure cooker on for 6 quarts of deer meat that is ready to be canned. Now, if you'll notice, the water that's in here is just up to the jar line here. Like, it's not over the lids, it's just up to the line of the jars right here where it's not over the lids. This is just like water that I've made a mess with. So, now, what I'm gonna do is put the lid on, turn my high heat on until we reach pressure. So, you line your arrows up and then you just close it. This is kind of hard to do with one hand. All right, so that's on. Make sure your little bell's on there. Now mine has, I think it's 10 pounds of pressure that's set on here. And so what we want to do is when we get to pressure, we're going to have, this little thing is just going to bounce and make a consecutive noise that's not going to change. We want it to stay at that pressure for 90 minutes. So when your valve starts to dance like that, you've reached your pressure that you wanted to reach, and now you're going to let the canning process begin. Set your timer for how long you're supposed to can. For venison, it's 90 minutes, and then you're gonna let off your pressure by just tipping over your pressure valve, letting all the pressure out. Take it off of the heat onto a cool burner, and then once the pressure is released, you're gonna take each jar out, sit them in a dry area where they're safe, not gonna get knocked over. And then as they start to cool, you'll hear the sweet little tinks of success. All right, so our pressure canning is done. And we're just getting them out to let them start the cooling process. You can see they're actually still cooking in the jars, still boiling. And as they cool, they will just, oh, one just sealed. It's basically just a waiting game to make sure that they're sealed. If they don't seal, then the meat needs to be used as soon as possible and refrigerated. If they do, then they are good at room temperature in a cool storage area for up to 18 months.